Hey, what's up? It's Jared with State of Tech, and these are my top 5 features that I like about the Galaxy S9. Now, I got this phone on Friday. I got it on the same day that it was publicly available to anybody else. Samsung doesn't send me stuff, unfortunately. I did pay for this phone out of my own pocket. So these thoughts are of my own, and they're not influenced by any money that I've received from anyone. So the S9 is a great looking phone. Of course, there's lots of people reviewing it and talking about it. I've only spent the weekend with it, so all I can do is give you my favorite features so far of this device. Now, the first thing is the display. Samsung always has just the best looking displays, beautiful displays that rival anything else out on the market. I mean, really, the only display that can hang with this display is an iPhone 10 display, which is essentially a Samsung display. So this display just is beautiful. I love the fact that they still have a little bit of edge going on, because that just makes the experience a little bit more immersive when everything kind of ends on a line, like they do with most other phones with a little bit of bezel. It does take away from the experience a little bit. Having the edge to edge with a little bit of curvature just makes it more immersive, and I found that I like that experience a little bit. Although the edges are, a little bit challenging in some apps because accidental touches and stuff like that on the edge being registered definitely makes it kind of a pain in the butt. I typically would put this phone in a case, which would help with that process. But the display is just unrivaled. It's extremely beautiful, and I don't even have it in its highest setting, in its highest resolution setting, and I'm enjoying it as is. Number 2 is the build quality. Samsung has always had some pretty good build quality on their devices, especially the last 5 or so years. It's a beautiful device. It looks good without a case. It's going to look great in a case. It's very smooth, very symmetrical. They changed the curvature of the device a little bit, whereas some years it's been maybe more rounded on one side than the other. They've changed that radius a bit, and now it is pretty consistent around the whole phone. So it just feels really good. I know people say, "Oh, it feels good in the hand," and it's a comment that everybody makes, but this does feel better than previous versions. I think that there's a good amount of heft to it so that it doesn't feel light or cheap. It doesn't feel overweight either. It's just a good phone, and it's built well, and it's built really solid. Number 3 is Samsung Pay. Now, anytime that I've had a Galaxy or a Note device and I've had Samsung Pay, that's just an experience that you can't explain unless you actually try it. Samsung Pay is better than Apple Pay and Google Pay or Android Pay or whatever, because you can use Samsung Pay on pretty much any type of technology. Even the older credit card readers that don't have any form of digital, they don't even have the chip thing in them yet, can take a payment from a Samsung device because of the way that they built the technology in here. I've been using Samsung devices for several years since Samsung Pay came out, and I absolutely love it. Samsung Pay is a better, more usable experience. And for me, I think it has to be something that I can use almost everywhere, or it's not going to become a habit. I'm not going to be looking at the terminal and thinking and wasting time thinking, what can I use to make this payment? I'm just going to pull out my card and swipe it or insert it. Whereas with Samsung Pay, I know that there's a probably 95% chance that I can just tap my phone regardless of what the technology is, and I won't have to worry about it. The only devices that I haven't been able to get Samsung Pay to work on are like those gas pumps where you have to fully insert your card in like an ATM machine in order to get it to read the card. Those ones don't typically work, although I have gotten it to work once. But other than that, pretty much any other terminal is going to work with Samsung Pay. I just absolutely love it, and you get rewarded for using Samsung Pay. You get those points, and you can exchange those points for things like gift cards and whatnot, which I think is a huge plus for using the Samsung Pay platform. Number 4 is the camera. Now, the Samsung camera definitely has way more features than most other cameras. When you're considering the Pixel 2 XL, which is a pretty It's a fantastic camera, but it has relatively few features in comparison to a Samsung camera. Now, the Samsung camera is great. I haven't really messed around too much with the two different apertures that you can shoot at, which I still feel might be a little gimmicky, but nonetheless still kind of neat that they're playing around with that. The camera's always been great over the last couple of years in Samsung devices. I feel like these manufacturers are really struggling to get the tech right, like Google has. The camera in the Pixel 2, Pixel 2 XL is far superior. They're achieving so much more with one single camera than most of these manufacturers are achieving with two cameras. Although I still think that there's a good reason to have two cameras, and that's if you want to zoom in. If you want to zoom in, doing that digitally just isn't going to work too well. So having the dual cameras is good because you're able to zoom in a little bit without losing really any quality. I like the fact that there are so many features in the Samsung camera because it gives me options. I might not use most of them, but they are there. I don't always use Pro mode with my camera, but I do definitely like to get in and use Pro mode from time to time, whereas on most other phones you have to have a secondary app in order to do that. There are lots of other interesting features. Some of them I turn off, some of them I use from time to time for different situations, but Samsung has those features, so it's nice to have them there, already there and ready and made to work with this phone. Now, I do feel that there are some aspects where Samsung tries to make photos a little too soft, such as in selfie mode when you're taking photos. By default, the camera photos are pretty soft, but you can actually remove that softening feature and then get more standard images out of the camera. I don't believe that this camera is as good in low light as the iPhone X or the Google Pixel 2, but when you are shooting in 2x mode, I found that low light actually performs better. So when you're actually zoomed in using that zoomed in camera, you're getting a better quality image out of the S9 Plus than you would out of the Pixel 2 XL or the 2x camera on the iPhone X or probably even iPhone 8 as well. So the camera is great. I've always loved the Samsung's cameras since probably around the S6 was when Samsung really started getting serious about their cameras. Prior to that, Android cameras were pretty much garbage, but now they are industry leading, and I could definitely get by on this camera. I would definitely miss a couple of the features of the Pixel 2 XL camera, but I like the camera that's on this S9 Plus. It's fantastic. It takes great photos. It works good underwater. All around, it's a fantastic camera. And the last thing, and I know this is the thing that people bring up quite often, is the fact that there is a headphone jack on this phone. Now, I don't have a fully Bluetooth-enabled car to where I can play music Bluetooth in my car. I have to use an adapter with my other phones, a dongle, and a cable to play music. That's just, I drive a car that's a 2011. It's not a super old car, but it is getting a little long in the tooth. And I don't plan on buying a new car for a couple more years, so I don't want to have to use adapters and stuff like that. And right now, because I have an iPhone X and I have a Pixel 2 XL, I've got two different dongles that I have to carry with me in my car. Simply having a headphone jack is definitely a plus. I have some Bluetooth headphones, but I haven't fallen in love with any Bluetooth headphones for using like at the gym or when I'm being more physically active. The Apple AirPods are great, but they tend to fall out of my ears in a lot of different situations. And any other headphone that I've tried to use Bluetooth doesn't work too well or is kind of annoying to use when I only want to use one of the earbuds at a time. So having a headphone jack is great because, yeah, I'm still able to use a cabled headphone without using any sort of adapter, but I'm also able to do that in my vehicle, or if I get into anybody else's vehicle that has a aux cable, I can plug right in. I don't have to worry about carrying dongles and adapters with me. I think that that's still kind of important right now, especially when many of us still have vehicles that are not fully Bluetooth enabled. Maybe that means that I need to buy a new vehicle, but I'm just not ready to do that yet. So this is a great phone all in all. I mean, yes, it's a little smudgy on the back, but I'm going to put a case on it. I'm still not 100% sure whether or not I'm going to keep it and make it my daily driver. I really like the phone, but there are little things about the Samsung phone that are definitely a little tricky for me still because I've gotten so used to gestures on the iPhone X, and then I've also gotten used to having a little bit more to hold on to with the Pixel 2 XL. But nonetheless, Samsung always puts out great devices, and the S9 Plus, S9 and S9 Plus are no different. So I'll be back with a full review soon. I just wanted to talk about a few of my favorite features so far with this phone and just kind of get something out there for those of you that were interested and wanted my take. Fingerprint unlocks really quick. It is a good phone all in all. But I do need to spend a little bit more time with it to be able to give you my full opinion on the phone. So make sure to click subscribe here on the YouTube channel. We're also going to be putting together, like we have with previous Samsung phones, a ton of resources for you so that you have those tips and tricks on how to use the phone, how to get the most out of using your Samsung S9 or S9 Plus phone. So make sure to subscribe to our channel here or head on over to stateofTech.net so you can see more of our articles and content posted there. Thanks so much. We hope to see you back here soon on State of Tech.